So what is the mystery initiation? How? What's the process? Okay, you're okay, don't get queasy. But this is a practice that involves the use of communion. This is a practice that involves somebody's body producing a substance through the flesh that you and I can use. That substance will bring us to death and back to life. We go into the pit and we come out, and what do they call us when we come out in late Bronze Age? They say we're born again. That experience causes you to be kicked out of the time stream in an ionic way so that you can perceive what your existence actually is. So that when you're brought back, you can then live your life knowing how the outside, the ion affects time. It allows you. And you say, people are doing this. They're doing it to the extent that guys like Cicero are saying, if you haven't been through it, you can't live. You don't know what life really is. So, but here's the part that's it's gonna be stickler, right? The drugs that they're using are derived from people. They're actually milking. For example, there's a milk from a priestess that produces it's the antidote to the burning purple. When you have the burning purple, and what do they do with the burning purple? This is a mollusk. This is a mollusk in the Mediterranean, and you can make a dye from it. They also make a drug from it, right? The dye is the drug, and they use the drug in a way to induce this death, right? They bring you to death, but as they're loading you up with this, and by the way, they administer it rectally. Rectally. Do you know why Mary Magdalene has an alabastron? Right? She's got the expensive drugs that you can rub onto the medicated dildo as an applicator, and you can insert it rectally or vaginally. And remember, this is not odd, because at the time when you worship Bonadea, you've got 20,000 women all engaging in a communal sexual exercise with their medicated wands. So somebody big in Rome gets in trouble for trying to infiltrate it. But it's a process. There's no distinction in antiquity between the religion, the medicine, and the cult practice, the actual mystery performance. It's a healing. They're looked at as these, to bring yourself out of life into what you and I look at as death, and then to yank the person back into the time stream. That's a medical procedure. So what the priestess does is she gives you the medicated dildo. Now, before she's done this, they have loaded you with psychosis-inducing drugs. And these are the ones that we're finding on the hair of the offerings and the menorca, for example. This is real Bronze Age pharmacological tech, high tech here. And what they do is they induce the death state, but as they're doing it, you have satyriasis. Satyriasis, and you think, what is satyriasis? Satyriasis is induced by the drug satyrion. And what does satyrion do? It not only has scopolamine and atropine to make you nutty, to induce psychosis, right? But it also has a drug that they call aphrodisiacs that cause you to have an erection that is unremitting. After 6 days, they say by the 7th day, you kill someone, right? Doing this, whatever it's doing physiologically to them. Maybe it's the blood pressure is too messed up. I don't know, but it can cause death. So when the person is being put under, the priestess is masturbating them to the point of the orgasmo, that peak So you have to understand they're entering death. And what are you? You're also bound. You're also bound. Why do they have to bind you? Because they're giving you psychosis inducing drugs. Something happens to you in the state of orgasm when you are dying. And they say the effects of the thanasimone. The thanasimone are the drugs that induce death, right? And they have this whole class of drugs that induce death, and there's overlap with what you and I would call their anesthesiology. I had to pass a series of exams to go on to dissertate, and in those are my qualifying exams. And my specialist, John Scarborough, had to give me an exam, and the exam was a series of questions. One of which is, what is it in ancient anesthesiology that is used most standard to induce a state that you can perform surgery on? Is it the opium? Is it the mandrake? What is it? So all of those drugs that are being used are kind of pioneered through this religion. They have witches, right, who are able to perform these acts on you. For example, in antiquity, if you lose your erection, if it's a problem with your right, where do you go? You go to the priestess. What happens? She ends up giving you all sorts of drugs and whipping your genitalia with stinging nettles. It's a process whereby you can bring resurrection. So you've got your patient. Now remember, these are generally youths. Okay. Generally youths. So the sexual activity that's going on here, we would today consider it, underage. Underage. Yeah, there's a reason they refer to the priestesses a certain way, and there's a reason they refer to the initiates. When that priestess has engaged in the process of stimulating that boy, she feeds that boy her own breast milk, which Galen says is an exudate that is not, it's not milky looking. Why? And he says those breasts that they get it from, they're underdeveloped. They're in the budding stage, right? What's happening to these priestesses? They're on their own drug regimen. How do they apply? You know what they're using? They're using serpent venom. Ooh, devil, right? They're using venoms, combos of venoms, and you can't swallow venoms. Everybody knows that. They break down. Right? How are they applying them? They're applying them through incisions. They're making themselves that they cover with medicated bandages. Within the medicine that's impregnated in the linen are these venoms that slowly leach into your system as you're using it to treat a wound, right? They also use them. I've seen them applied to the eyes, and I've seen priestesses urinate and what looks like from this Latin text actually ejaculate rather than urinate. It's unclear, but it says the person's face smells like a brothel afterwards. So I'm assuming it's not just urine. Yeah, but so you're talking about your priestess, and you're right? I'm still talking about the mystery and what's happening. You're talking about your priestess, and you're right. She's using the alabastron on you. You've entered a state of forced arousal, and you're dying. That thanasimone is taking over. But as you're dying, your respiration rate drops. She is inducing orgasm, and they say the most important part. Remember, you're psychotic. Right? At this point, you're psychotic. She is singing. Right? They say it was the most important part of the ritual is the song. Apparently what she can do with that song in the process of you going under and coming back. And the only reason you're coming back is because you drank her breast milk. That's all. It's the only reason. By the way, the breast milk girls who have the grape-like breasts, those girls are on those viper venoms that we know for a fact are prolactin inducers. They interact with, they activate, the pathways that prolactin activates. It kind of makes sense. If they're going to produce the milk, they have to be able to to have these hormones on board. Something in it. I talked to a doctor once in Australia, a toxinologist, not a toxicologist, but a toxinologist. He does snakes, and they do research on Parkinson's and venoms. Anyway, he said it's probably the closest, closest we can speculate is it was probably antibody mediated responses that are coming through the breast milk, quote unquote, to the child. Now you think about it and remember that gods are fed. Gods are fed on this milk, right? This is how you get gods, right? You know why? Your eyes will be open and you'll be just like him. When your eyes are opened, right, the facade falls down and you understand your place in the universe, and you cannot serve a god like Yahoo. You can't serve him, right? It's a lunacy. You create madness in order to instill reality. And they call that breast milk galene. It's the storm. They describe it as the calm after the storm. So apparently, when the patients come out of this and they go through a period of where they say they look dead, for all intents and purposes, they look dead, right? Ultimately, they come out of it. They're revived. How do they revive them? They egero them. They resurrect them. They bring them from a state of sleep or torpor to a state of life, right? And so afterwards, you're changed because you have a different perspective. It's these people that have the ears to hear, right?